6:30. When you see the wheel deal on your screen, be the 13th caller with the right answer. Play Wheel Deal and win.
Pretty smooth drive home tonight, but tomorrow, Ed's looking for rain. Hope it stays away, because Live at 5 is supposed to be remote with Ragbri, so I hope we get to do that.
And that's going to be a blast.
Time now for a preview of the news at 6. Here's John.
Thank you, Jim. Coming up at 6, the war against drugs. Seizures are up, but so is the amount of drugs on the street. Jim's going to have that story for us. A delay in that court ruling on Prairie Meadows making the future of the racetrack all that more uncertain. And a look at the security measures being taken on this year's Ragbri. These stories, the rest of the news in 1/2 hour.
Okay, thanks, John.
Finally today, we have not 1, not 2, but 3 Pets of the Week from the Animal Rescue League.
And whether you're looking for a small dog, a medium-sized dog, or maybe a big dog, Judy Conlon has something for you.
Just to give you some idea of the enormous variety of breeds and sizes of dogs that we have here at the Animal Rescue League, this is Mouse. Mouse is a little Chihuahua mix, and she's just adorable. She's 4 months old. And next to her is a Shih Tzu, and the Shih Tzu is between 6 and 9 months of age, a male, just a darling. And here we have PJ. Hi, PJ. We have 3 beautiful white Samoans like PJ. So, depending on if you have a fence or no fence, whatever you have, if you have a lot of love, come out here and see the beautiful, beautiful animals at the Animal Rescue League. Thank you.
By the way, the Animal Rescue League out at 5452 Northeast 22nd, or you can call 262-9503.
That's it from here. Don't forget, tomorrow night, Ragbri. State Capitol will be there live. If it doesn't rain, please don't rain. We'll see you here tomorrow.
International AIDS experts say a new virus is a big and frightening mystery. Operation Desert Storm, new reports of sexual abuse of women on duty. And Italian anger at the Mafia is growing.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, reporting tonight from NBC News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. From the beginning, we have known that one of the great problems in dealing with AIDS is that the virus has the ability to rapidly change to ward off attacks. Well, now, there may be a new AIDS virus. More and more people are showing up with AIDS symptoms and no sign of the original virus. NBC's Robert Bazell is at the International AIDS Conference in Amsterdam.
Was a recent report and was...
It suddenly became obvious that AIDS-like disease, apparently caused by a new or mutated virus, is much more common than anyone knew. Dr. Jeffrey Lawrence of Cornell Medical Center had been trying to keep his research quiet until it was published in a medical journal. But conference organizers persuaded him to report it. He described 5 cases in New York. 2 have died.
4 of the 5 individuals had known risk factors for HIV disease.
But the patients have no evidence of HIV, the virus that causes AIDS, in their bodies. Dr. James Curran of the Centers for Disease Control spoke next.
CDC knows of 6 cases.
2 of the CDC's cases were people who had received blood transfusions. Quickly, several scientists from the audience stepped forward to describe other cases. The first was Dr. Luc Montagnier, who discovered HIV.
I had also to know about similar cases.
For years, scientists have known that HIV can undergo rapid mutations. Chemical analysis often shows that a virus isolated from one person is quite different from a virus infecting another. But so far, scientists have no evidence that the virus can mutate so much it would go undetected by the standard tests. If such a mutation has occurred, or if an entirely new virus has appeared, it would mean that tests could fail to reveal that someone is infected, or that donated blood could be contaminated.
There is something that apparently is real going on right now, and we've got to be very open and forthcoming about it to be able to try and isolate whatever it is as soon as we possibly can.
Dr. Lawrence of Cornell has told other scientists he believes the cause is an undetectable mutant of HIV, but he refuses to discuss it further. Until researchers discover the cause of this non-HIV AIDS, there's no way of knowing how big a problem it is. While it remains a major medical mystery, all indications still are that it is a tiny public health problem compared to the AIDS epidemic. Robert Bazell, NBC News, Amsterdam.
And sexual harassment and abuse of women in the U.S. military is a rapidly growing problem tonight. 3 Army officers at Fort Drum, New York were suspended today indefinitely for distributing a videotape of their consensual sex with an enlisted female. And that's just the latest. NBC's Fred Francis now.
The frequent stories of women in uniform as sexual victims is spreading through the armed forces at a time when a presidential commission is trying to decide the future roles of U.S. service women. This week, the Navy, which has been in a class by itself in degrading its women, fired the captain of this salvage ship for fraternizing with enlisted females. To date, after the public testimony of Navy Lieutenant Paula Coughlin, telling how she and 25 others were molested by naval aviators, the Navy Secretary resigned and some senior officers were fired. And now the U.S. Army has the same deep-rooted problems of sexual misconduct in the ranks.
You had some rotten apples there, and the system needs to deal with the rotten apples and with the culture that allowed that to happen.
This week, the Army Times reported that during the Gulf crisis, more than 24 female soldiers were sexually assaulted. 6 were raped, 4 almost raped, and 14 cases of indecent assault were investigated.
I would tell you that while for the Army, one incident is of concern and egregious and should not have happened, that 24 to 34 incidents in a population of 300,000, 26,000 of whom are females, in the desert in that period of time is not an unexpected level of misconduct.
Female soldiers fear that the Presidential Commission may conclude that sexual impropriety is too tempting for troops on the front line and too dangerous for women.
Well, this guy started kissing me, which I thought was pretty disgusting. And then he started fondling me.
Army Major Rhonda Cornum, who told her story on NBC's Dateline, said what happened to her should not be grounds for rolling back opportunities for female soldiers. In fact, many senior female officers say if inequality in the ranks is abolished, men will respect them more and sexual misconduct will diminish. Fred Francis, NBC News, Miami.
James Hoy's full interview with Army Major Rhonda Cornum can be seen tonight on Dateline NBC at 10, 9 Central Time. And
nice try, Jenny. What's wrong? Oh, you have arthritis? Me too. It's hard to grip your racket, isn't it? Here, my doctor told me about this, Motrin IB. It's the same medicine as in prescription Motrin in non-prescription strength. It's great for minor arthritis pain. And 1 Motrin IB works as well as 2 regular aspirin. Try it. You'll have the advantage next set.
Motrin IB, the relief of Motrin in non-prescription strength.
Listen, athlete's foot fungus grows beneath the surface of your skin. To cure it, you've got to get down to the root of the problem. You need Micatin.
Micatin penetrates the surface of your skin with miconazole to cure athlete's foot where it grows. Step up to the mic. Micatin.
If you took the most effective diarrhea medicine and shaped it into a caplet, you'd have Imodium AD caplets, the only caplet that often stops diarrhea in 1 dose. Imodium AD caplets, the original prescription for 1-dose relief.
countdown. Election day is 15 weeks from today, but George Bush and Bill Clinton already are exchanging shots as if it were tomorrow. NBC's John Cochran is covering the Bush campaign. Andrea Mitchell is with Bill Clinton. John, we'll begin with you tonight.
Tom, labeling the Democrats as the tax and spend party helped George Bush win the White House 4 years ago. But now that strategy is starting to show its age.
While the president was on the campaign trail, his vice president was on the trail of Clinton and Gore, recording satellite interviews for cities on Clinton's bus tour.
His economic strategy is to raise taxes twice that what Mondale and Dukakis were talking about.
The Bush campaign has coordinated its attacks. This sound familiar?
Bill Clinton calls for tax increases twice as big as those proposed by Mondale and Dukakis.
Well, not quite. Walter Mondale proposed $85 billion in new taxes in 1984, but Michael Dukakis proposed no new taxes in 1988. Double $85 billion and you get $170 billion. Bill Clinton calls for $150 billion in new taxes on corporations and the rich. Many of Bush's friends are afraid he no longer has the credibility to accuse others of taxing and spending, all because of this famous soundbite.
Read my lips.
2 years later, Bush accepted one of the largest tax hikes in history, $137 billion. Bush said he broke his promise so he could get a deal to control spending. But this year, Bush gave up even trying to balance the books. His own budget called for a $399 billion deficit. Even the Republican chairman of the Federal Reserve said today, nothing is more important than cutting the deficit.
That it is essential that we bring the budget deficit down
as rapidly as we can, because it's a corrosive force which is doing very great damage to the American economy.
Bush's problem, his advisors say, is regaining trust. He must find a way to convince the voters that he hates taxes and spending as much as they do. Tom?
Thank you, John. Well, Andrea Mitchell, it's day 5 now on the road with Bill, Hillary, Al, and Tipper. And if it's Tuesday, this must be Indiana. That's Dan Quayle territory, isn't it?
That's right, Tom. Bill Clinton and Al Gore are in America's heartland, trying to deflect Republican charges that they are traditional liberals. On Highway 64 in southern Indiana, they turned rest stops into campaign rallies. They are determined to do what Michael Dukakis didn't do 4 years ago, fight back.
These guys, you know what they're going to do? They're going to call us every name in the book and tell us you ought to be scared of voting for us. I tell you what you ought to be scared of is being stuck in the same old rut for 4 more years.
The Clintons are riding the bus through these small Midwestern towns to create an apple pie image before the Republicans paint him as a dangerous liberal. In Dan Quayle's home state, Clinton turned the L word against the vice president.
They say, well, you know the Democrats, they're too liberal. They probably can't even spell that word.
And in an interview with NBC News, he responded to an attack on his draft record by Republican Senator Jake Garn.
Maybe more importantly, I think, is the Vietnam-era record of the people in the Bush administration. I mean, Jake Garn's right, then Dick Cheney and Dan Quayle and George Bush's sons can't hold national office.
On the 1,000-mile trek, the campaign brought a Hollywood image maker to produce today's education event and all of the down-home picnics and barbecues along the way. The people who turn out include party faithful and the curious. Susan McGovern waited for hours along the road to shake Clinton's hand.
We're still kind of undecided at our house. We do lots of talking. We've been Bush fans for years and still undecided.
I'm a hard Democrat, the hardest one in Du Bois County.
And what do you think of Bill Clinton? If Clinton can hold on to Oddie and win over Susan McGovern, he has a chance of keeping his post-convention momentum going. Tom?
Thank you, Andrea. When Ross Perot bailed out of the campaign last week, he promised his hired political guns that they would be paid through November. But now Perot has reneged on that deal. He'll pay them only 2 weeks severance pay. The word is Perot is blaming them for bad press and for leaks. On Wall Street, stocks inched upward today in moderate trading.
I see no reason whatsoever to go back to the cereals that I used to eat.
Christina LaForgia just tried breakfast with Grape-Nuts for a week.
I need a lot of energy in my work. Grape-Nuts gives me energy throughout the entire morning.
Grape-Nuts, the fat-free natural energy source.
I love the taste. It's fat-free. I love that. I really love that.
Breakfast with post-Grape-Nuts cereal helps keep you going strong all morning long.
After you eat Grape-Nuts for a week, you will be eating Grape-Nuts for the rest of your life.
The new baby was up all night. Now you gotta make the morning right. Folgers always comes through. It's decaffeinated too. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Mountain-grown Folgers decaffeinated. It gives you something the other leading brand doesn't. Richer aroma to wake you up.
Now you're off to a great start, 'cause Folgers warmed your heart. What a wonderful way to let the sun shine on your day. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
A late night snack. And no bag keeps it fresher than Ziploc brand storage bags. With the gripper zipper. Tough, tiny teeth you can feel gripping. So you know freshness is locked in.
Honey.
Caught red-handed. There's only one Ziploc.
Tonight's America Close Up, the call of the wilderness, protecting the environment. Should millions of acres of mountains, valleys, and streams be left untouched? Only 4% of all U.S. acreage is protected under federal law. In Montana, legislation before Congress would leave more than 1 million acres untouched, another 1 million set aside for study and recreation, and 4 million acres would be open to development. It's a hot issue, neighbor against neighbor. NBC's Roger O'Neill tonight reports from Big Fork, Montana.
Montana, the last best place, where the urge to touch and leave alone
is as strong as the will to harvest and start anew. A bitter life and death struggle over wild land. Ross Titus has been walking the mountains of Montana for 42 years.
There is no objective measurement of how much wilderness is enough. All I look at is how much we've lost.
Jim Hurst has been in the mountains too, making a living there.
When I look at this is a future. It's employment. It's habitat.
It's Montana's Civil War, a rancorous 12-year debate over what to do with the last 6 million acres in the state of essentially untouched land. Use it for logging and mining and motorized recreation, or set it aside as wilderness, where man will have to accept nature on its terms. Ross Titus.
When I'm hiking through this country, I'm aware of the things around me much more than I am in the city or around my home. But the most important part to me is knowing that the animals, the mammals, and the smaller beasties of the woods up here have an opportunity to continue. We should be keeping at least 10% of the country as it was.
But Jim Hurst, who owns a lumber company and employs 200 people, sees the forest from a different perspective.
We have enough wilderness in Montana. Why do we need any more? I think we need some jobs. And jobs is an old, worn-out word, big deal, jobs. But when you're as close to the community as I am, it all of a sudden becomes real personal. And I can't explain to those people why we can't go into certain areas in the forest and log.
For most of us, a week at a dude ranch will be the closest we'll ever get to the wilderness. A breakfast of flapjacks, coffee by the fire, surrounded by the woods is wild enough. But for a lot of Montanans, the wilderness bill Congress will probably pass this year will define their state for years to come. It's why compromise has been so hard to reach.
There's no reason we should need to timber all the hills and the mountains. We don't have to do that. We have plenty of timberland without destroying the grandeur that makes Montana so great.
Yet, our whole concept of the American West is multiple use. We're to extract the minerals, we're to graze the grasses, we're to cut the timber, and they're all, except for mining, are renewable resources. I kind of disagree. It's a pretty intangible thing how you appreciate wilderness. It's, you can't put it in black and white.
For the logger and the hiker, the Montana Wilderness Bill doesn't go far enough. The mere attempt by man to define wilderness is in itself a failure to appreciate what this land is. The last best place with no boundaries. Roger O'Neill, NBC News, Big Fork, Montana.
Tomorrow on America Close Up, for some American immigrants who came looking for a better life, well, that dream is gone.
Wasted time.
Not enough time. Parenthood.
Unemployment.
You never needed it more. A new extra strength pain reliever made to get today's tough headaches before they really get you. 1,000 milligrams strong. Stomach guard. And the name Bayer. That should ease your mind. Introducing new extra strength Bayer Plus. Now there's no pain you can't bear.
Fat chance. Finding a faucet made as well as a price Pfister. After all, it's the one made in its own USA foundry. The one uniquely fashioned with a heart of solid brass. Start to finish, the quality is first rate. Furthermore, the cost is a fraction of what you'd expect. So why fiddle around? Get a price Pfister. The fabulous faucet with a funny name.
In our universe, there was always the unknown, the unpredictable. All we can do is prepare for it.
AT&T is now installing Fast Start. It can detect a cable cut instantly, so 800 calls can get back in minutes instead of hours.
We can send flowers for any occasion, anywhere, but only if our 800 service is up and running. Our 800 service isn't just a phone line, it's a lifeline.
I miss you.
AT&T has the most reliable 800 service, period.
AT&T. Call us.
Do you get diarrhea, too?
Yes.
I get diarrhea. My immediate reaction is, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. I use Kaopectate because it works. Kaopectate stops my diarrhea. I rely on it.
It's a comfort to know more people have taken Sominex over the past 30 years than any other sleep aid. Safe, simple Sominex.
Back in the news tonight, the suicide doctor, Jack Kevorkian, a Michigan judge, dismissed the latest murder charges against the retired pathologist, ruling that Michigan had no law against assisted suicide. In other news around the world today, Iraqi demonstrators protested UN attempts to inspect Saddam Hussein's military facilities. Iraq so far has prevented a UN search of its agricultural ministry. Secretary of State Baker met with King Hussein of Jordan before heading to Syria. Baker is seeking a resumption of the Middle East peace talks, including Israel's newly elected government. Israeli Prime Minister Rabin met in Egypt with President Mubarak of that country, who accepted Rabin's invitation to visit Israel. No Egyptian president has done that since Anwar Sadat in 1977. And there are some encouraging signs coming out of the Middle East tonight. John Chancellor with some thoughts in his commentary.
Tom? Well, the news from the Middle East, as you've heard, is good, especially for people who want Israel and its Arab neighbors to get along better. The leaders of Israel and Egypt are talking again. Washington and Jerusalem are friendly again. The news from the Middle East is also surprising. One of the rules of American politics was broken this year. The rule says it is politically dangerous for the White House to get in a fight with Israel during an American presidential election year. Israel has a lot of friends in the Congress. Its supporters contribute to political campaigns, and usually Israel is regarded with affection by American voters. But during this presidential election year, the Bush administration got into a very tough fight with the government of Israel. Moreover, the fight took place during an Israeli election when passions in Israel were high. The result is remarkable. So far, the administration hasn't suffered serious political damage, although Secretary of State Baker has taken a couple of hits. President Bush came out of this fight without a mark on him. The new Israeli government will get along better with Washington than the old one. In all, the rule about fighting with Israel in an election year just didn't apply. The president ignored political wisdom when he took this tough line. He ran some serious political risks in this matter. George Bush gets good grades on his skill at foreign affairs. His handling of relations with Israel this year shows why those good grades are deserved. Tom?
Thank you, John. The Italian government today announced new search and arrest laws for that country, and they beefed up the police force to battle the Mafia. But it wasn't nearly enough to calm public outrage. More tonight from NBC's Arthur Kent in Palermo.
Police tried to prevent angry crowds from reaching the church, but they were all but overwhelmed by the tide of emotion. The citizens of Palermo had come to the funerals of the 5 bodyguards killed with Judge Borsellino, both to mourn and to protest. Assassins, people jeered at Italy's politicians, ridiculing them for their inability to prevent Sunday's bombing and the wave of mafia violence most here expect to continue.
This is becoming ritual here in Sicily, an outpouring of grief, then an explosion of public anger, and always directed at the Italian state, the authorities, who are blamed for losing the war with the Mafia.
Inside the cathedral, Italy's president and prime minister were jostled by relatives and colleagues of the slain policemen. Nationwide, at places like Milan's stock exchange, Italians showed their anxiety and respect for the dead by halting trading for 10 minutes. Traffic came to a standstill too, even at Rome's busiest intersection. But in Palermo, Sicilians were left to shower the coffins of the victims of the Mafia with honor and with their tears. There is no effective response to the killings in sight. No way to turn outrage for the deaths of 5 more murdered policemen into action to crack down on the crime families of southern Italy. Arthur Kent, NBC News, Palermo.
There's a new airborne partnership tonight. British Airways is buying a 21% interest in U.S. Air. That's creating the world's largest airline alliance. The $750 million price tag gives U.S. Air much-needed cash and British Air access to key American cities.
At Ford Motor Company, we don't just build quality cars and
Ford
trucks.
Customer Assistance Center. How may I
We
help you?
build relationships. Our customer assistance department assists over 4,000 people a day on everything from warranties to how to program a keyless entry system. It's part of a whole philosophy at Ford that's rapidly changing the ownership experience.
Well, it's important to us that you're happy with your car. Thanks for calling Ford.
Ford Motor Company. Quality is job one. It's working. It's working.
Red Lobster's brought it back by popular demand. Our full pound of shrimp platter returns. Whoops, overflowing your plate. A full pound of shrimp. There's so much, you may need a doggy bag at Red Lobster.
Now at Red Lobster for lunch. For a short time, shrimp and chicken just $4.99. Golden fried shrimp and grilled chicken breast, plus potato and salad, just $4.99.
So hurry.
To Red Lobster for lunch.
Delicious. I'm surprised.
I love this cereal. These people are eating a high-fiber cereal, and they love the taste. Surprised? I'm not, because they're eating fruit and fiber. And as a nutritionist, I know fruit and fiber has high-fiber bran flakes, and it's the only one with plump raisins, chewy dates, walnuts, and crunchy oat clusters for a delicious taste.
Surprisingly delicious.
Post fruit and fiber cereal. Try it for the fiber. Love it for the taste.
2 a.m., 36 Pine Street. Apartment 4C has a backache and can't sleep. 3C overdid her afternoon workout and is paying the price. 2C had an aching back, but fortunately, she also has Tylenol PM, with extra-strength Tylenol pain reliever, plus a gentle ingredient to help her sleep. And a good night's sleep was all she needed to make her day a whole lot brighter. Tylenol PM, so you can rest easy.
Most of us have grown up with the notion of Yugoslavia as one nation. We knew that there were internal rivalries, but until Yugoslavia broke up, no one outside could fully appreciate the bitterness of the division. Listen to NBC's Tom Aspel.
Wars create refugees. Yugoslavia's has already spawned 2 million. They come from communities in the way of marauding armies. Soldiers who destroy what they can't use, kill because they can. Behind the frontline destruction here, there's a sinister campaign being carried out by faceless men determined to purge whole communities, make them pure. Croatia for Croatians, Serbia for Serbians. They call it ethnic cleansing. The Fumic brothers, Milan and Marko, are packing up. They're moving their families from the Serbian village of Hrtkovci because someone here remembered their late father was a Catholic from Croatia. That made them half Croatian and unwelcome in a village that wants to be 100% Serbian. The campaign to evict them began with phone calls suggesting they leave and escalated to threats against their children, and then to an attempt by masked men to murder Marko.
No happy man. Stupid. A stupid situation.
Some of their Serbian neighbors, best old ex-friends, looked on from a distance when the Fumic family left, while others ran for one last hug, one last kiss. Marko Fumic gave the family home to a Serbian expelled from Croatia in exchange for his house 200 miles away. It took 2 days, but the Fumic family is now here in Podravska Slatina, Croatia, cleaning up a stranger's garage, eating off a stranger's table. Quietly because they haven't yet learned to call the house their home, and uneasily because all around them there are reminders that their new village has its dark secrets too. Across the street, the house of a Serbian resident who didn't want to move back to Serbia. Down the road, another one, and another. The villagers now consider themselves 100% Croatian. These are the people the Fumic family will have to get along with.
Using fear, intimidation, and murder, extremists all over the former republics of Yugoslavia have been creating ethnically pure areas. All sides see the process as irreversible.
Podravska Slatina, at peace with itself, ethnically cleansed. A scant 50 miles away, there's a train frozen in time. 50 years ago, it carried people to this spot. There's a monument, like a flower, rising up from a flat plain. The Croatians and their Nazi allies are accused of executing 30,000 gypsies, 60,000 Jews, and 500,000 Serbians here during World War II. They called it the final solution. Tom Asbel, NBC News, Croatia.
That's Nightly News for 2 tonight. I'm Tom Brokaw. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Next on your 24-hour news source, cracking down on drugs.
More than $500,000 worth of cocaine and marijuana seized in only 5 months. We'll tell you why that's not such great news.
It's going to be a busy night here at the state capitol as volunteers turn the Capitol grounds into a reg-bri campground. I'm Tom Hauser. I'll have a live eye report.
Gary Amble says bikers may need their rain gear.
And Prairie Meadows faces more uncertainty, all just ahead.
Get the inside story on buying appliances. Best Buy makes it easy with 0% financing. Need a refrigerator? Get 0% financing. Get 0% financing on a range. And a dishwasher. That's 0% financing on a washer. And dryer, too. So come in and get 0% financing on any major appliance priced over $250. Now at Best Buy.
The deals are heating up during the big summer sell down at your Quality Buick dealer.
Turn up your savings with a new Park Avenue for as little as $3.99 a month.
Get a hot $1,000 cash back on LeSabre, up to $1,500 cash back on Regal.
Or choose financing as low as 2.9% on the full Buick line.
But summer sell down 92 price savings won't last long.
Hurry to your nearest Quality Buick dealer.
Tired of making others rich? Need a second income? See the area's largest selection of full and part-time businesses at the all-new Own Your Own Business Expo Saturday and Sunday at the Convention Center. See exhibits, get the facts, find the business to suit your lifestyle and budget. Many can be operated at home without business experience, and some need just a small investment. So stop wishing and start doing. Choose from a tremendous selection of full and part-time businesses at the all-new Own Your Own Business Expo this Saturday and Sunday at the Convention Center, 501 Grand Avenue. Expo hours 11 to 6.
Live from WHO TV 13, where the news comes first 24 hours a day. John Bachman, Ken Kerrigan, Rick Silvestrini with sports, and meteorologist Gary Amble with the weather. This is News Center 13 at 6.
A kilo of cocaine confiscated from dope dealers and taken off the streets. Part of this year's big crackdown on drugs. Good evening. Thanks for being with us. The war on drugs hasn't been won.
But narcotics investigators now say they're at least winning some of the battles. Des Moines records show that in less than a half year, drug seizures have skyrocketed. In the case of one drug, 10 times the amount confiscated over a year ago. Much of this is due to an increase in the number of drug enforcement officers now working the streets. Crucial evidence tonight that Des Moines narcotics officers are making a serious dent in the Des Moines drug trade.
An eye-opening set of statistics on the amount of drugs being taken off the street. Still, News Center 13's Jim Strickland says it's not all good news. Jim?
Jim and John, Des Moines police say they've been able to make some major drug busts because there's more drugs out there. Lots more. When Des Moines police showed off an entire kilo of cocaine and some profit seized in a drug bust, they had no idea just what kind of banner year the narcotics unit would have.
See an increase in cocaine that's coming into the city or passing through the city, and we've been fortunate to intercept a lot of that cocaine.
Look at these numbers. In the first 5 months of 1992, narcotics officers seized 2,000 grams of cocaine. Street value, $200,000. That's more than double the seizures last year at this time. Marijuana, too. More than 62,000 grams seized, value $372,000, 5 times the amount from last year. And methamphetamine, increasingly Des Moines' new drug of choice, 357 grams seized, worth $35,000 in change. 10 times the seizures of a year ago. Not all these drugs were intended for sale in Des Moines. Much of it was taken from drug dealers passing through. No matter. Des Moines police want them all busted.
We're out there, and we're doing a good job, and we're catching them. And if you're doing drugs, the possibility is there that you're going to be the next one.
Now, it's not just police in Des Moines having great luck against drugs. State narcotics agents say their cocaine seizures have tripled, their pot seizures have tripled, their LSD and methamphetamine seizures have doubled. So everybody, it seems, is cracking down and taking more drugs off the street. Kim?
Thanks, Jim, very much. It's now up to juvenile court officials to decide if a woman is responsible for her child ingesting crack cocaine. The 2-year-old and another child were found in a parked car last Tuesday. After medical examination, it was determined the child had high levels of cocaine in his system. Police believe the boy ate crack while left unattended in the car. The child's mother, 27-year-old Donna Evans, could be charged with child endangerment. Tonight, the child is in the protective custody of relatives. A 68-year-old Des Moines man hospitalized tonight after being hit by a city bus. Witnesses say Harold Jarrett stumbled and fell off the curb at 6th and Walnut as a Metro bus came past. Passengers say the driver did all he could to avoid Jarrett. Jarrett was sideswiped and fell to the ground with a head injury. Tonight, he's listed in fair condition at Iowa Methodist.
A lot of pedal power going on these days here in Iowa. Day 3 of RAGBRAI brought few complaints from cyclists. Mild temperatures and overcast skies made the hilly trek from Bedford to Osceola a little less grueling. The cyclists covered 77 miles in all, stopping